Los Angeles has once again become a silent witness to the most emotional moment in the history of Korean entertainment. A private hospital located not far from the city center suddenly filled with dozens of cameras, reporters, and fans gathered silently, only waiting for definitive news about one name: Kim Tae-young. After days in a coma due to a sudden nosebleed that led to serious complications, this morning the ICU door finally opened. And the first to come out with puffy eyes and shaky steps was Jungkook. The news that Tae-young was conscious from the coma spread like lightning, but it wasn't just his recovery that left the world speechless. It was Jungkook's reaction that couldn't hide his emotions. With puffy eyes, a wrinkled face, and a hoarse voice, Jungkook stared at the reporters and spoke only one sentence before his body collapsed on the manager's support. "I almost lost him." Her tears broke, and for a moment, the time in the hospital hallway was frozen. Since the sudden incident at the airport 3 days ago, in which Tae-young suddenly had a severe nosebleed as he was about to board the car for a private concert, everyone who knew him was overcome with panic. Jungkook, who was just 2 steps away from her, immediately screamed in panic, hugged Tae-young's limp and cold body, and begged for help. Dozens of cameras captured the moment, but not a single sound was heard because what was happening was too fast and too gripping to be translated into words. Once rushed to the hospital, doctors confirmed that Tae-young had ruptured a blood vessel in the inside of the nasal cavity that triggered a drastic drop in blood pressure. He collapsed and was unconscious for 72 hours. During that time, Jungkook never came home, didn't sleep properly, and didn't eat properly. He just sits in a waiting chair, sometimes leaning against the wall of the ICU while staring at the closed door, and is often seen closing his eyes while holding a small pendant in his hand. A pendant that Tae-young once gave him on his birthday. A nurse who did not want to be named said, "He, Jungkook, doesn't even want to be disturbed. Many times we told him to rest, but he just said, if he wakes up and I'm not around, he's going to be scared." That morning, around 6:27 local time, Tae-young's heart rate, which had only been stable thanks to AIDS, began to show an active pattern. His eyes slowly opened, and the first sound he made was an indistinct murmur. But as soon as he saw the familiar shadow sitting beside his bed, Jungkook with his hands clasping his fingers, a faint smile appeared on his pale face. "Hyung, you're back," Jungkook said softly, before he began to cry silently. The nurse immediately calls the doctor, and a thorough checkup process is carried out. But for Jungkook, the world stops at just one point. His eyes are locked on Tae-young's, who is still weak but alive, still breathing, still here. According to an internal hospital source, Tae-young could not speak fluently due to muscle weakness and the effects of sedatives, but he wrote something down on a small piece of paper that Jungkook immediately put into his jacket. No one knows for sure what was written on it, but a hospital staff member said he saw the words, "Don't cry anymore," scrawled on the paper. Jungkook's cry, that was finally heard outside the room, made the fans who had been waiting since the night immediately fall to their knees. Some cried, others hugged each other. Some of them sang BTS songs in choked voices, as if sharing the emotional burden that was so heavy these nights. Meanwhile, HYB's agency finally released a brief statement. "We can confirm that Kim Tae-young is currently conscious and recovering. We ask for privacy for our artists and their families. We thank you for the love and prayers that continue to flow." But what the official statement did not mention was how fractured Jungkook's psychological condition had been. Since the incident, he has refused to appear at any events. He canceled all schedules, even refused to meet with fellow members who came to visit. Only himself, the doctor, allowed to accompany in turn. He didn't want to share space, a hospital security official said. It feels like he's the only one who knows how to take care of Tae-young. Now, after everything changed in one overcast morning, Jungkook looked tired yet calm. He didn't talk much to the press. Only one word came out of his mouth, interrupted by a sob that he could not bear. "I almost lost you." The sentence smacks everyone who hears it, not just because of its emotional honesty, but because the world knows the relationship between Jungkook and Tae-young is much more than just group mates. They are two souls bound in silence, who understand each other in sight, and who can never really be explained in the media narrative. A close source said that when Tae-young's condition began to stabilize, Jungkook asked for a special room for just the two of them. Inside, they just sat face to face, their hands clasped, and Jungkook cried again. This time without shame, without fear. Taeyong tried to raise his feeble hand to wipe away those tears, and somehow, in the silence of that white space, they spoke in a way that only the two of them understood. Will Taeyong make a full recovery soon? No official word yet. Will Jungkook be back soon? There is no certainty. But one thing is certain. The bond between the two has now been tested by something deeper than fame, by an almost unspoken sense of loss, fear, and gratitude. And as night returns to Los Angeles, many believe, love doesn't need to be announced to the world to be felt. Sometimes, just one look in the ICU, and one honest word from the bottom of your heart. I almost lost you. Shortly after HYB's official statement was released, social media timelines exploded. The keywords #TaeyongBack and #StayStrongJungkook are trending in more than 40 countries. Fans flooded the platform with messages of love and hope, but many also uploaded videos of the pair's past moments, especially clips of Jungkook silently looking at Taeyong on stage, or the moment when Taeyong clasped Jungkook's hand as they walked through the frenzied crowd. But behind all that public romanticization, the reality inside the hospital is much more silent and fragile. Taeyong was still weak. Although his eyes are now open and he can hold Jungkook's hand slowly, his body has not fully recovered. His breathing is still assisted by a light oxygen cylinder. Food is still through intravenous fluids. But Jungkook, who doesn't want to leave her side, now sleeps on the small sofa at the end of the bed, every night. He only moves briefly if asked by a doctor to go out during a medical procedure. According to an exclusive source from one of the medical staff members, Jungkook wrote a personal letter to Taeyong and read it out in a quiet voice while holding his best friend's hand. The letter was not just words of support, but also full of apologies. Sorry I couldn't prevent that from happening. Sorry for not being quick enough. And most heartbreaking, sorry for thinking Taeyong might not come back. If you give up, then I'll give up too. I don't know how to continue without you, Jungkook said in the letter, as quoted by staff who heard him from outside the door in the evening. The atmosphere at the hospital suddenly changes when Taeyong's family arrives with a small musical instrument, an old harmonica that supposedly belonged to his grandfather. Taeyong always plays it when he wants to calm down. Jungkook bends over and kisses Taeyong's mother's hand, thanking her for being allowed to stay by their son's side. The mother just smiled softly and said, "He needs you more than anyone right now." In the room, Jungkook tries to play a simple note on the harmonica, and although it sounds discordant and nervous, Taeyong's eyelids tremble. A thin smile appeared again on his face. The moment was captured by medical CCTV cameras as part of the recovery documentation. There was no confirmation yet if the footage would be shared publicly, but staff described it as the most human and heartfelt moment they've ever witnessed between two people who love each other in silence. That night, before going to bed, Jungkook jotted down a quick note on his phone. Not to upload, but as a self-reminder. The sentence reads, "You may not remember everything that happened, but when you see me again, I'll make sure you know that I never left." While the rest of the world awaits HYB's official press conference, fans now only care about one thing: Taeyong's health and Jungkook's peace of mind. They didn't ask for a comeback. They do not demand an explanation. They only wish that the two names could smile again, together, without a crushing burden, and behind the windows of the hospital that began to be soaked in the rain of the Los Angeles night, two hands still clasped each other in silence, one with traces of infusion needles, the other with scars of tears.